Well, welcome everybody, and I appreciate you joining us on our Professional Development Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. Exciting to be back in August and see so many faces after we've had a very busy and productive and fun summer. It's great to see everybody at the State Fair and visit and catch up. And so I'm excited today to welcome Rochelle Veteran, our Volunteer and Leadership Development Specialist here in the Center for 4-H. Exciting to have her today, and our fabulous Extension Agent, 4-H agent in Morton County, Carla Mickle. She's going to join in today and tell what she's doing in her county. And then we're also going to hear a little bit from what Sue Millender is doing in her county as well, how she's putting these great resources to use. And so I just want to welcome you to 4-H Club Leader Training, Ideas Using 4-H Easy, Recipe for Community Club Success. I know a lot of you have been looking for online volunteer leader trainings because all our busy schedules, and you're like, how do I get this trained? So here's your opportunity to learn more about all these fabulous resources that Rochelle has created with her team. So I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle and Carla and Sue.
Thanks for that intro, Megan. And I do want to say this project was a direct result of your request across North Dakota and then actually our North Central region. And so right before the pandemic, or just a little bit before the pandemic, some of my North Central region volunteer specialists and I had met and said, you know, we need to create something that, why do we need to all do this separately? We need something that is a recipe for 4-H community club success that we can provide our volunteers. And as we begin today, I want to say I am a little bit what do I want to say, shy about showing you some of these videos because it was not my idea to film or talk about my 4-H club or our 4-H club that Carrie Robidoux and our wonderful other volunteer Kristen and I have had, but some of my other volunteer colleagues said, you know, you've tested all these materials over the years. Let's actually talk about how you've used them and then how you've had other clubs in your area use them or sharing those resources. And so the videos do have me talking on them, and Carrie Robidoux, who is one of the educational design specialist from the University of Minnesota, who is my partner in crime or was in our club. And then Steve McKinley, who is our the volunteer specialist from Indiana, from Purdue. He's our interviewer. And so if you watch the videos with your volunteers, you will see us talking about how these tools that we've provided on this website really apply to a 4-H club leader or volunteers work. And so our agenda for today is to kind of walk you through these resources and then the materials that can be used with volunteers, give you a little time to check them out yourself. Carla's going to talk, Sue's going to talk, and then we're going to break into some rooms and talk about how you might apply them or use them with your volunteers, and then come back and you can ask questions in the end. So again, Megan's been sharing those. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly share our website, and Carla and Megan are going to make sure that I stay on track as far as time here, because all of you who know me know that I like to talk. So all right, so Megan has shared the website in the chat. And we specifically developed one central location for our 4-H volunteers to go to download materials and ideas for how to effectively partner with our 4-H youth to run a traditional community club. Now, we've talked a lot about as far as innovation and moving in other directions with 4-H, and that is youth development, and that is very important. But we also still have that core club group that needs support. And we know that when 4-Hers are involved in that club experience, that is a high level of interaction with those caring adults and other 4-Hers and some real positive experiences. And so our volunteers need tools to effectively do that. So rather than plopping an old 4-H leaders guide on their desk and scaring the heck out of them, like we did 20 years ago, we now have built some materials online to support them. And as a volunteer personally myself, that's where I go, is the web, to look for resources and tools and materials. I don't really, I don't even have, like, from my county in Minnesota where I'm a volunteer, I don't really have a 4-H leaders guide. I have materials that are available online to use. And actually it's these, because Minnesota is using them too. So the introduction here is a video, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, just to kind of give you an idea of where the information came from. And then that application guide that I asked you to download. And then Carla's going to talk about the division of roles among the 4-H club volunteers and how we suggest, hopefully, to divide the labor and experiences and have 3 different adult volunteers helping support and guide that club. And I will tell you, this is speaking from experience, that it has made my life easier as a 4-H volunteer, because we have divided and conquered. We each knew that we had strengths and experiences that we wanted to bring to helping support the club. And we knew that we couldn't do it on our own, with that we were all busy working moms. And so Carla's going to go into a little bit more how she's used that, but I will just tell you, we have evolved and transitioned in my club and brought in new leaders. And now I have 2 younger, energetic leaders that I'm mentoring and coaching to take over some of these roles, because they have younger youth and have some new ideas, and it's wonderful. So it does really work effectively. Carla's going to talk about that. So wanted to show you that. And then just let you know, there's just several different topics, and we're going to share some ideas about how you break it down with actual tools as far as club meeting agendas. We have our North Dakota 4-H recreation guide on there, because people are always looking for our 4-H recreation leaders are always looking for ideas and resources as far as what they can use as far as games and activities. But a few of our volunteers said, you know, that guide is so much. Do you just have a few games that you suggest? Or our recreation leader in our club said, that's a lot to pick from. Give me 5 of them. Let's find 5 that I really like. And so that's what we did. We came up with an actual songs and games card that our little recreation leader could have and say, you know, I think that today I want to play Dead Cow, which they love Dead Cow. I don't know if that's like politically correct or not, but that was one of their favorite games, or is one of their favorite games in our club. And so he had a few, that recreation leader, to select from that he could choose. And we have all of the ways you do that as far as the instructions and everything on here, just to make it as simple as and effective as possible. We have those song lyrics from the songs they chose. Carla is going to talk a little bit about the parent and caregiver interest survey, so that we can have our 4-H volunteers ask their parents and caregivers in their club to be the ones that kind of step up and help with the club, because they have wonderful knowledge. We have a list of club officer duties. And I was just telling Carla and Megan that somehow we have in our, like, this is a wonderful list. We love to engage and involve lots of youth in these different roles, so they stay actively involved and feel some ownership. But in the historian and news reporter, we had added some items related to social media, and somehow I don't know what happened to those. So I'm going to have to go back and check. There's always a work in progress. And there's our recreation leader. We have a safety officer, health officer. I mean, you can pick and choose, but we wanted to empower. We have pledge leaders in our club, so everybody, those little younger ones, all feel like they have a part. The meeting wheel is our wonderful North Dakota 4-H meeting wheel, and how much time you should take for each part of that meeting. So again, you can tell I used a lot of our North Dakota 4-H resources. Carla's going to talk you through a little bit more of those service learning ones. One of my favorite pieces that we use at each meeting, we have younger officers. My daughter's the president. She's 13 in our club. I think our vice president's 12. Our secretary is 11. And so we have a script for our officers, because most of them know about parliamentary procedure. And we literally create this script, or fill in these holes each time I meet with our club officers ahead of time. We kind of talk through the meeting right before the meeting, fill in those different names, and then use a script each time. And I will tell you, it helps, because I was not using a script at one of the farms where we went, to one of the family farms we met at not too long ago. And my secretary let me know that we forgot to introduce guests that were there, and I was in big trouble. So it was great. I said, my work here is done. You know that you all know this by heart. So Anyway, lots of materials and resources, and I know I'm running short on time. I wanted to show you one thing really quickly here. So in order to log into the videos to share, you're going to see like an introduction, and it'll tell you how long the video is. And if you click on that, you are going to, oh, it's already going to start it for me here because I hadn't filled out. I opened this separately. You're going to see something where you're asked for a survey. Leanne will love this because we've been talking about evaluating programs. So the first time our 4-H volunteers go in here independently, they need to fill this out so we get some demographics about who they are. And this information all goes into a Qualtrics form. And then I get that along with the volunteer specialist from Purdue. And then we can share that from you. So I can tell right now that there have been people in Carlos County who've been using these materials because I can see their names and where they're from. So they fill this out. It's very easy to do. We don't collect it for any other purposes than tracking who we're reaching. You submit it, and then they get to the piece where they can watch the video. If you're hosting this in your county, you can just do that and then give us the numbers later if you want to. But I wanted to share this with you. 2 seconds of it.
Welcome to 4-H EZ. Today we are pleased to share with you some tips that can be included in your 4-H club success. My name is Steve McKinley, 4-H Youth Development Extension Specialist in Leadership and Volunteerism at Purdue University in Indiana. And it's my pleasure to serve as your facilitator for this session. With me are 2 outstanding individuals who have a variety of backgrounds and experiences of working with the 4-H Youth Development Program. Rochelle Veteran is an associate professor in leadership and volunteer.
Hey, Rochelle, we can't hear you right now.
Put it on mute.
There you go.
So this one, I will tell you, is just the introduction. I can kind of speed through. That just kind of tells them some of the guidelines and what we'll be covering.
In the successful operation of the 4-H.
So it covers some of the intros and just kind of basic information. And then those other key ones go through the materials that they will need to really run their clubs. So, but I wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. It's not me the whole time. There's a lot of other information that's shared. So with that, I know there's a lot of tools on that main website that I showed you, and I want you, and maybe Megan, can she just popped it into the site again. I want you to take about 5 minutes here and just explore the website yourself and click through some of those materials, download them, look at them, think about how you might use them with your 4-H volunteers or how they might use them in their club, and then we'll come back and chat. So any questions before we do that? Otherwise, Megan, just pop that in there again, and I hope you will again check out the 4-H EZ website. So take a little time to explore, and I want you to share one good idea that you found when you get back in the chat.
And please put your questions in the chat box, and we'll be able to answer all those towards the end, and we'll just compile them together. So when you think of it, pop it in the chat box.
All right, about 20 seconds, and then I'm going to have you share your ideas in the chat, and I'm turning it over to Carla. So get those great ideas that you found in the chat and hit return. And with that, I will turn it. Hopefully you had a chance to explore some of those. Acacia, thanks for leading the way and sharing your ideas, and Jayla. And Carla's going to talk through some of those cool resources that you found. So Carla, take it away.
Okay, hey, thank you. So I'm going to share with everyone some things that we do here in Morton County, or some of our clubs do. I'm not going to say that everyone is on board quite yet, but there are a few clubs in the county that have been really successful with it. And so the first one I'm going to share is, and I hope everyone can see that, is the division of roles among the 3 4-H club leaders. We get asked a lot, you know, what is my, what is the description of a leader? Or, you know, what are some job duties that we have? And so this we found really useful. In a couple of clubs, they do a really great job at this. So the 3 4-H club volunteers, parent and adult volunteer organization, which really helps communicate family responsibilities. They might be responsible for snacks, the welcome activities, the demonstrations, or if they're doing a project that month. And that's been very helpful for the parents in our clubs. And then youth and project organization. Here it states, you know, delegate planning and teaching of project ideas, confirming the date and the time and location with presenters, plan thank you notes. So someone who's responsible for that, a couple volunteers within the organization, or youth volunteers that have adult supervision to help with those kind of things. And then the last one there is meeting a business organization. Really that person who's communicating with the extension office, asking questions, or coming in to get the treasurer's books, the secretary's books, making sure that the reports are getting sent in monthly, that they're having a 4-H club meeting. It's just been really helpful. And then also that person is responsible then for turning in the treasurer's book to the county extension office every year, just so that we have an opportunity to review that and make sure that they're spending and overseeing their financials in a responsible manner. So it's really worked out well, being able to define what roles there can be in a 4-H club. And it doesn't give then all the responsibility to just one person, because as we all know, when someone says, oh, you're the organizational leader of such and such a club, there might be that persona that, wow, you have a lot of responsibility. But this way you can divide it up so that person doesn't feel so overwhelmed. And it really works well. I guess I grew up in the 4-H age where we had a volunteer and there was other volunteers that helped out, but that main leader did everything from organizing who was doing demonstrations to who was leading activities, who was going to have lunch, and all of that. So if it's spread out, it's not as big as a responsibility. And then if you have something that comes up, then there's other people there to help out, which I think is just really great. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen. And then the next one I have for you. And I know that this is successful and Vanessa's club actually. And can everyone see that? It's the SLIP method for planning a 4-H club year. Okay, so Vanessa takes a piece of paper and has all her 4-H kids at a meeting, and they write down ideas for the year. And because really you want those youth to plan those activities or to have some say in what they're doing, not just parents making those decisions. And so she takes a big piece of flip paper and the kids all write down ideas, things that they do, and then they vote on them with a dot or by a raise of hands. And then those kids at their meeting then go off with me and we do a 4-H activity. We've done 4-H archery. And so I'm distracting the youth and having them participate in an activity. Well, Vanessa actually sits down with the parents and then the parents kind of plan out the year. So if she's got someone in her club I think Melissa's her name and her husband, they like to do woodworking activities. So they take the month of like March. There is another parent that likes to work with photography. So they take another month. So they all break out the month. And by the time they leave their September meeting, they actually know what they're doing for the whole 4-H year. And if they have to juggle months around, they can amongst themselves. But it's been really successful for her club. I've got some other clubs in the county that have done it as well, but I just know from helping Vanessa out how great it is, because then she doesn't have to come up with all the ideas either. So that's a really great useful tool. So I encourage you that if you can, to really have your volunteers work on this with their kids, because it takes, again, the burden off of one person deciding everything that's going to happen for the 4-H year. So then the caregiver survey, I know Acacia actually mentioned this here in a comment that she had. And this is something else that's really great. So as parents and caregivers of our 4-H youth, you know, really identifying who in your club might have like some special skills that they can share, or communication skills that they can share. They might have, you know, an opportunity that they want to work with the county fair, all those kind of things. So this really provides you an opportunity to check off the things that you as a parent in an organization, or your parents and volunteers might be able to help with. And it gives your head leader then an opportunity to sit down and say, okay, this person can do a simple craft, or this person's really good at robotics, and to be able to break out your 4-H club. And this is a really useful tool as well. It also helps, you know, like volunteer interest under club and county. I really like this one because if they want to help out at Achievement Day, or the fashion review, or consumer decision making, they have the opportunity to check that. And then as a county extension office, we have those resources that we can go back and visit with folks and say, hey, we understand you have an interest in this. Could you help us out? So it's not only benefiting their club, but it is involving the county as well, and really being beneficial. The next one that I have to share with you, and this is all in the resources that Megan has shared the link with, but it's the window of work, you know, things that they do well, things that they want to learn, and things that please don't ask. So I think of somebody called me up once and wanted me to do something on baking, and anyone who knows me knows I'm not the best baker. So I would put baking underneath. Things that I do not want to do, please do not ask me. But things that I do well, I could easily put woodworking underneath there, or shooting sports. And then if other people wanted to reach out to me and say, hey, can you help me with this month? I could do that. So this really gives you an idea. So I would utilize this. And then there's another survey that they have that's listed in your resources. And this one here is for parents or caregivers to fill out. And it includes regular activities in which parents and caregivers help out in different areas. And so you can actually put your name on this and then check whether you would or would not help in the different activities. And this is really useful. I have a club down in Flasher that's used this before, and they really like it because then they can manage their 4-H year better and know who their go-to people are in their county. Did the next one pop up? No, okay, stop sharing.
The club meeting agenda, Carla?
Yep, okay,
yep.
So the 4-H club meeting agenda. This one here is another really useful tool. A lot of 4-Hers, especially 4-H clubs that have younger members, that they can write out what the agenda is going to be like, and they know then who is going to help them, like who's going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and they don't have to have that blank look as they look out into their group and say, who wants to do this? So you can write this out ahead of time and know who's giving reports, and know you know, what the agenda is going to be then for your meeting. And then the next one, that is really good, and especially I have a really young 4-H club. The kids are ages 8 through 13. And so the 4-H club meeting script, I hope that's on your screen right now. Is it? Okay. And this is great just because a lot of times our kids start off tapping the gavel all the time. So this really gives them an idea how many times they should tap the gavel and what they should say. And then if they have any hiccups along the way, you know, you as a 4-H leader or the 4-H leaders can guide them through. But this is really great because a lot of times they don't even know necessarily how to make a proper motion. And so this gives all of that information here that they can walk right through, and it's in a really easy way for them to read it. So we use that one quite a bit. And then the 4-H main checklist, you know, this is a great way for you to evaluate not only by youth, but parents and your volunteers as well, you know, things that went well, things that could be improved upon. So those are a great way to get that feedback. And I'm running out of time, so we're going to go through service learning here real quick. But one of the key components, of course, with 4-H and 4-H programming is service learning projects, and kids always like to get involved with these. And one thing I've heard as I have traveled around not only my county, but doing shooting sports activities or shooting sports trainings, is that we don't want to brag about the service learning projects that we do. Well, yes, we do. We want people to know the great things that 4-Hers do within the county. And so we want you to advertise that, whether or not you are, you know, having a television station come out, or the local newspaper, or even submitting an article to the newspaper about all the wonderful service learning opportunities that your kids have taken under their wing, and share those. And this is a really great list of ideas for that program. And then in the easy information that's out there, there's also planning and carrying out a service project fact sheet, things that you need to really think about. You know, you're from planning to raising funds and publicizing your project. Again, those are all really important, and it's just really great tools. You don't have to dig real far to find them, and really beneficial for not only 4-Hers, but for volunteers and county extension staff. I think I had one more here. 4-H clubs, officers and duties. This is another thing that I found really helpful, as far as, you know, we have the book that has 4-H meeting guidelines in it, and this just broke down really easy for kids to understand and parents. And so we've used this at some of our 4-H clubs as well, but it's been really beneficial, and it's been a really welcomed tool within our county and amongst a couple 4-H clubs. Especially, I have a club down in Flasher, and the one leader, she didn't want to have all that responsibility, so it was easy to divide things up because we had all the tools right here in front of us to say, okay, you're going to be responsible for this, and you're going to have this responsibility. So then it divvied it out where one person didn't have everything that they had to work with. And with that, I'll stop sharing. And yeah, I think I'm done, right, Rochelle?
Well, Carla, can you just talk about, you talked about how you use these tools. Talk really quickly about how you rolled them out to your volunteers, about your Zoom meetings, and how you kind of shared these resources with them or trained them to use them.
Yep. So some of the resources I've actually gone out to 4-H clubs and shared with, and then others, we had some Zoom meetings, and I haven't had one now for a few months, but last year when COVID was hitting in the fall, or with us in the fall, I had Zoom meetings monthly where we could get together and talk about different topics. And so one of them was all about 4-H clubs meetings, and we talked about the roles and responsibilities of volunteers. And it was really, it was very well received. There wasn't a lot of people on the first couple, but then, you know, as you have them, and if you plan out a topic every month, that your volunteers can take in, it was really worth the extra time. And we only met for like 45 minutes to an hour. And it was in the evenings, late enough that, you know, people could have their supper, and then, you know, have their evening that we could sit and visit via Zoom. You know, a lot of people don't want to take the time, as you all know, to get together and face-to-face and have educational opportunities for volunteers. But when we started offering them via Zoom, they really, it was really welcoming, and they asked some great questions, and they really engaged in that. And so that's where part of the rollout for easy 4-H club meetings really helped out.
Carla, did you have any parents attend who weren't necessarily leaders but were interested in getting more involved?
Yes, absolutely. So we had some parents that joined us, and once they found out like what the club leader does, they weren't as hesitant then to jump in and say, yeah, I can take a month and I can help out with that, knowing there wasn't that large commitment of the whole entire year. And that was really great because you know, for our 4-H leaders, that can be really overwhelming to have to sit down and plan out the whole year. But if you had a parent that had a specialty in some kind of area, you know, that they could share with, perhaps livestock judging is their thing, and they could, you know, take a month and talk about livestock judging. It was really nice that they said, I can help out if it's, you know, for a month, I can devote some time and put some energy into that. So they did some planning, and it was really worthwhile.
How did you promote that Zoom series?
I just sent it out to all the counties, or all the counties, excuse me, all the clubs in my county. And then I also put it on social media. And if they wanted to attend, I had them RSVP so I could send them the link. And we had anywhere from, there was 3 people on one up to 16 people. So it wasn't a huge reach, but it was big enough that it made an impact that it helped out me. And then it helped take some stress off of some of my head 4-H leaders.
Thanks, Carla. Sue has been wonderful, and actually Sue Millender has the day off today, but she has been willing to jump on. I told her if she could to share a little bit about her idea related to a flipped classroom and using these materials a different way. So Sue, I'll have you go ahead and share your ideas.
Well, Carla, I tell you what, you nailed it. I am so excited now to bring this forward to our county. I know that for me, the biggest challenge and barrier is getting people together. But yet when I visit with people about Zoom meeting versus the meeting that we gather, they all say we want to get together. That said, there isn't a prime opportunity or time within their busy schedules to get together. So I'm contemplating this schedule for my county, doing a flipped classroom where they actually watch the video and do some of the questions beforehand, can do some self-reflection, and then get together and really discuss down deep what they learned, what their plans are, and share between leaders. And I would actually like to do that in both ways, offer it via Zoom, but also offer it in person for those people that want to get together. So I don't have much more to add because I'm really kind of, it's a work in progress.
Thanks, Sue. I want to just say I love the flipped classroom idea because my kids have that a lot with their teachers. They go ahead and watch those videos independently, and we all know people love videos. That's one of the reasons that we created, you all requested that there be some videos kind of explaining things on here. So we did that, and watching them independently and then coming together to share those resources and talk about how you're going to apply them, I thought was just a great idea. Otherwise, I know in some other states, they've actually had where agents have hosted a watch party and they've quickly watched those videos. You know, the longest one I think is 18 minutes. And then they have talked through how they're going to use those resources afterwards or how they apply. Like Sherelle was asking about the one flip chart. And in that first video, you can actually see me doing that activity with the youth. And it's that dot slip polling method to prioritize options on the link there. And then thanks for sharing that in the chat, Carla. So watch parties again, or taking it month by month, like Carla said, and then maybe you start out, we introduced this in January, but we knew because of COVID that it was going to be you know, we didn't know how much volunteers would engage in that. I know as a volunteer myself, I was just trying to bring our clubs together via Zoom and then eventually safely face to face. The first time we ended up meeting face to face with our club members, and everybody, every family was at their own table with masks on, and we ended up in the American Legion because that had the biggest, largest space. And then eventually we moved to meetings outside. And then now, thankfully, like with our fair, people will be able to be face to face. But so we were just in that kind of survival mode, I would say, in this winter and spring. But now I'm hoping this could be something, as Carla said, that you introduce or roll out to your volunteers to use independently, or that they possibly, you think about starting maybe in September, October, even August, and kicking this off and doing module by module with them, watching the video quickly with them on Zoom, and then actually sharing those resources, or doing some of it face to face. Share this with your 4-H councils, just some of those ideas. So what we wanted to do is build in a little time for you to be able to talk with each other about ideas and how you might apply these resources, and even click through more of those links if you wanted to as a small group. And Megan has sorted you into small groups. We're going to go into breakout rooms. Now, don't everybody disappear because of that, because then we're going to come back and do some more idea sharing and have some answer questions. But with that, Megan, you want to give some instructions, but we'd like you to just talk through some of the resources that you thought might be a possibility to share with your volunteers, or how you might use this in your own county. Because again, you asked for these materials. You asked that we provide some 4-H community club leader resources online to guide them through that process. So here they are. How are you going to use them?
Okay, so I put everybody in a breakout room and I'll send you there in just a couple of seconds. And Rochelle, just ask you to talk about how you're going to use these resources. Then we'll come back together and ask questions. And so I'll send you a message into your breakout room with like 1 minute left. And I'm going to pause the recording during the breakout rooms and then start it back when we get back. So I'm going to send you to the breakout rooms now.
You have about 8 minutes to chat, and then Megan will send you a 1 minute warning. Thank you. To see your smiling faces with your cameras on. That's great. I miss all of you. Some people like Angie Johnson, some at fair, I was like, oh my gosh, I've met with you on Zoom so many times. I forgot what you look like in person. You know, we've been together like this for so long. So tell me some of the things you shared. What kind of great ideas did you hear about ways that you might use these resources with your 4-H volunteers or your club leaders in your communities or parents? And you can do that opening your mic or typing things in the chat, whatever. I would love to hear from you though.
I totally want to jump in because my group was amazing. So one of the big things that I commonly hear is trying to get volunteers to help and not just drop their kids off for daycare. And so I loved some of the different ideas in terms of how they get their volunteers to step up for like county achievement days or county fairs, and loved like club rotation sign-up sheets required to volunteer to get your premiums. And so identifying that sheet that Carla had where she was talking about, you know, don't ask me to bake, and having that role expectation of what things you're good at. So in your clubs, you can start to identify what those volunteers can help sign up to teach, instead of just, you know, making sure we're not just dropping them off and not participating. Loved it.
And again, those sheets that Carla was clicking through were all part of the 4-H Easy resources. And the ones you were talking about were the 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. I use those all the times in our club to do exactly what you talked about. And in our community club too, we require that parents, at least one parent or caregiver, that our youth have someone come with them to the club meeting, and the parents sit behind so they can't take over. We have the kids sitting at the tables like in kind of a triangle or in a circle, whatever we can do, and the parents sit behind, but there's at least one of them there, so that if we do club activities and have younger members there, those parents can get involved and help out. And then it helps with club or classroom management too, to have someone there. And then they just become more engaged and are like, you know what, I can volunteer to help with that Lego bridge building activity next time or whatever. So very important to have this. It is not basketball. I tell them I'm not coaching the kids. We are all in this together and you get to spend time with your amazing kiddos. So awesome. What other ideas did you share?
I think one of the things we talked about, and I thought, and I am new in this position, but I'm also a club leader. So going from a club leader standpoint, I really like the idea of doing the three, dividing up in three things and then we talked about how we can just have a family each month be in charge of the project and kind of take that off my plate and take it off of my other leader's plate too, because we're both busy. She does a club and then she does something else. And then I do the club and I do the hippology thing and plus this. So it kind of helps us all in a way because we're small and we have smaller kids. So it's just teaching the kids how to do that and make up their own mind and give that to the family a little bit too. That's kind of what we went through.
And one thing that's not up here that I should share with all of you is we do a club calendar for the year, and Sandy assign individuals, just like you said, like a family. We talk about at the beginning of the year whether one family wants to host and then handle everything, or if we kind of divide and conquer, like one family brings the snacks and the drinks, and then the other one is going to have their kiddos ready to present and do their demonstrations or communication arts that, and we have, and some decide they want to do it all on one meeting and they're going to do, and so we kind of mix it up, but we do, that's another thing that we include is we do that club meeting for a year or the calendar for a year and then assign those different things, and it works well. So not everyone has to do all, and someone else does the welcome activity, and it does work well to just share. And that way you see what all these amazing things that our families are able to kind of feel like they have that ownership or that sense of belonging that we talk about with 4-H too. I know you heard some other great ideas out there.
One thing too, just as an extension agent view, Vanessa does her calendar, and it's really helpful because then if there's things that I want to go see or I want to catch, I can. And so encourage your clubs to share that with the extension office. Hey, here's our monthly calendar, and this is what we're doing. And if you want to come out and visit, because again, I'm going to go back to forming those relationships with your 4-H clubs. Those are really important, as we all know. And if there's an opportunity where you can go out and either lend a hand with an activity, or perhaps you are the activity for the month, really take advantage of that, because you're forming relationships with new parents that have been around for a while, our veteran parents, those kind of things. And that's really important. So I would encourage you to, if your clubs are doing a calendar, to have them send it into the office.
And Sherelle asked to share that calendar, and I will, and that's something we should probably add to, because I think Carrie and I talked about it in the videos. I'll share that. This year's calendar, I will say, got blown up because we had a well-laid plan as we started as volunteers last summer, meeting thinking that we would be face-to-face eventually. We had to just transition, a lot of different things, or it was the year before COVID hit. So we are now again going to try to meet next Monday to do that club calendar. We just had to be flexible every month. We'd post that on our Facebook site and say, we had planned to do this face-to-face, but instead we're meeting on Zoom, and we're going to drop off the cookie decorating kits for the holiday, and we're going to do this online and play bingo while we're doing it and whatever. And so, we just had to kind of be flexible, but I will share that too. So, and good idea, Carla. And I liked what Leanne shared about I'm wondering if we can get a copy of that postcard. Patty, want to say more about that?
We just kind of wanted to have my envision is people are going to put it up on their fridges, and every time you go to a meeting, you write the date down, because we had a lot of people with COVID this year wondering how many meetings they had, and what for year-end paperwork we have to get your premium, we have certain requirements. So but I can try and share that if I can figure it out.
That would be wonderful. You can send it to Megan or me, and Carla, we can get it out to the group too. Mentioning that and kind of what every county requires, one of the things that was super helpful, because we had a young secretary, it seems like we do have a younger club, we build them up. I mean, but again, we always want to keep them engaged. And so the club meeting notes really helped our secretary capture those quickly and in kind of an organized fashion. So again, that's one of the links on the website, and that is 2.4, the club meeting notes. That PDF was super helpful. I mean, all of these are things that we've used or tested in our club. So really helpful. With that, I wanted to mention again, I am looking for some volunteers. I know I have a couple already to help me figure out, so this kind of helps with that club piece. But as we're redoing our websites at NDSU, the volunteer website for our NDSU Center for 4-H or 4-H website, I want some ideas and some guidelines and some volunteers that could really help me structure what that should look like, or help us, I should say. What's going to be helpful to you? We're not going to take all of these resources and put them on the North Dakota page. We're going to put a link that kind of describes them. I've talked through this with Katie in our office, and then click on to these materials, because our goal is to drive everyone to this website to download the videos, because Wisconsin was kind enough to house all these materials for us. So if anybody is willing to volunteer, you can volunteer here or send me an email and say, but I would like some volunteers, like those of you as agents to volunteer, and then, or specialists, and also maybe a couple of your community club volunteers or other volunteers that are willing to give some guidelines about what they want on that website. A couple of you I know have had questions about volunteer materials and resources. I hope all of you have kept your basic 4-H binders over the years. We have fabulous materials in there about running your whole 4-H club program. I hope you did not throw those away. I hope they're still on your shelf, because that walks you through how to identify, select, how to orientate your volunteers, how to do some training over the years, how to recognize them, how to retain them, and how to evaluate them. And so I hope you've hung on to those. If not, Megan has all of those materials housed in a Google Drive for new staff that really, it's a whole list of what you do with your 4-H program. Lots of great resources. So revisit that if you're looking for some things. And then I'll also direct you to your 4-H advisory your Extension Advisory Council guide. That's online, and hopefully all of you have a copy in your office. That really helps with volunteer management, working with your 4-H councils and resources. So make sure you're looking at those tools. Cindy Clapperidge and I worked very hard on that. So there are some tools out there. If you need help finding them with the website transition, please let us know. Oh, otherwise, any questions for Carla, for Megan, for me? I know we only have a couple minutes left here.
Hey, Rochelle, maybe it's a good time now to promote the upcoming volunteer leader trainings in November.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So in November, I see Holly's smiling face and others. We've been posting, I sent out an email, and we've been posting on Facebook and Instagram the save the dates for the 4 volunteer locations. We're going to be doing training in Grand Forks, out way in Dickinson. Holly's going to be hosting for us up north in Montreal County, and then down in Jamestown. So in November. So hopefully you've caught those dates, and please share those out in the emails. We will be deciding what sessions we're having this Friday, and then we will get more marketing material out. But please, please, please send those save the dates out. So we are hoping to come to you live with those, like we usually do with our tour, those 3-hour sessions where we come out, do volunteer training with you. Your volunteers can come to, and you can come to any of those sites. It's the same content at all 4 sites. And then we're hoping to do a virtual something or another in January for those volunteers that aren't able to make it to those sites. And I can't guarantee it will be the same content, because we do a lot of hands-on learning when we're together. Thanks, Megan. I was going to do that and I forgot.
All right, well, we're right at 12 o'clock. And so is there any more final questions before we wrap it up? All right, well, and if you need to be added to the Google Drive for basic 4-H documents that Rochelle was talking about, just let me know and I can definitely get you added. A lot of you are added to it, and I can do that for you as well with your NDSU email address. But thank you all for joining us, and a big thanks to Carla and Sue and Rochelle for today's session, because I know this is much needed resources, and I hope that you will start using this in your counties because these are outstanding to be used. So thanks again for joining us. See y'all later.
Rochelle, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.